Hey, welcome back to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. I'm your host, Coach Zach. I'm here with Coach Brandy and Coach Jolie. And today we are talking about biting off more than you can chew in the new year with your fitness resolutions. So excited to talk about that. But before we get into today's topic, we always give a shout out to a member of the week. And this week, Brandy, this is your pick, so I'll let you go ahead.
I am shouting out to Andrew Woods this week.
Andrew Woods.
Andrew, I just love training Andrew. He's been training with us for just under 3 months now. I think it's about that time. And in that amount of time, the progress that Andrew has made in just over like 2.5 months is just amazing. He works incredibly hard. Like he comes in with such a good attitude, and just pushes through, tries everything, and the progress that he has made is just unbelievable. He's doing things that he never thought he would be able to do.
Yeah.
And it's really, the training has just changed his life. So he's one of those clients where he has some challenges, and just as an example,
very rare disease that I can't even pronounce.
Yes.
Never heard of before.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, he's never trained in a gym before. He's, done physical therapy his whole life, but he's to a point where he's able to do things like in his life that he has never been able to do, like take stairs. So he's like, this training in the gym has absolutely changed my life. And I just love that. But most of all, I love his attitude and his smile. And he just like comes in and works really hard. And he just has the best attitude.
Yeah. Huge win.
Yeah.
There's not enough good things that you could possibly say about him. I mean, it's just the fact when somebody has the deck stacked against them and they just overcome that and they work and they put in the effort and they don't let it hold them back is obviously inspirational.
Yeah.
So I want to thank him for being here.
Yeah, it inspires me too.
I think he's made you cry.
Yeah, I'm sure he has. I've definitely teared up. And I just love, maybe he can't do something right now, but his attitude is, I can't do it yet, and I will be able to do it at some point. And then he works really hard. And then, in a couple of weeks, then he can do that thing that he couldn't do 2 weeks ago. And that is just amazing.
Yeah,
that's
very
awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get into today's topic. So we're going to call this one New Year, Same You. And I think there's this all or nothing behavior that we see with a lot of people. And they think that just because it's a new year, they're going to completely change their life instantaneously around their health and their fitness. They're going to start working out. Not only are they going to start working out, but they're going to start going to the gym 5 days a week at 5 a.m. in the morning, even though the last time they got up at 4:30 in the morning to get anywhere was a long, long time ago. They're going to change their diet. They're going to start counting macros, and they're going to stop drinking. They're going to stop eating sugar. They're going to get 8 hours of sleep, even though now they're getting up even earlier than they were before. It's like the whole thing, everything is changing all at once. And we see just flops pretty quick on that, right?
Mm-hmm,
like people they instead of, turning on the faucet and, like a small manageable drip, they just belly flop into the pool. Mm-hmm. And I have seen this many, many times throughout my career where somebody will come in for like a consultation and they want everything that we possibly have to offer. They're like, yep, unlimited training, sign me up for the nutrition coaching, stretch, supplements, everything. And I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes at this point, because early days I was like, well, this is great. This person wants to buy everything. Like, This is going to be awesome. And then that person never shows up ever. They come for like one workout and then they ghost us.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, what's going on? How do we get you back? So I learned years ago, hey, it's much better to be like, we're gonna start with like one thing right now. But and that's really kind of what I want to help people with is if you haven't been working out, if you haven't been eating right, you haven't been prioritizing your health and your sleep and stress management, all those things, like don't change it all at once. Like let's start with implementing small things that we can manage, and let's master those things before we then take on another item.
Yeah. The habit is much more likely to stick if you start with one thing and master that before moving on to the next.
Yeah. I like the habit stacking.
Absolutely.
James Clear. Atomic
Yes.
Habit.
Yes.
Great book to read. But one thing that, well, I guess I could walk through kind of our, I guess, series of events that we try to take somebody through in order to kind of set them up for success. But I'll let you guys, if you want to jump in here and just kind of share your thoughts on this before we go through like, hey, here's some tactical things that you can implement to start making some, to actually make sure these new lifestyle changes stick.
So I really like the approach of like taking it one thing at a time. I know oftentimes, especially this time of year, the new year hits and people are setting New Year's resolutions. And I read a statistic recently where it was, I think by the end of February, only 20% of people that set New Year's resolutions are still like doing whatever that goal was that they had set on January 1st. So it's a very small percentage of people are still continuing like 2 months later. And usually that is because the goal that they set was way too big, something that was not manageable. So setting smaller goals and just one thing and mastering that one thing, I think is really going to set you up for success.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For the long run. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're trying to get back into going to the gym and you're like, all right, I want to get there 5 days a week, 5 a.m. It's like, okay, whoa, let's pump the brakes and see, it's 5 a.m. Is that even doable for you? Is 5 days a week, like what's going to stretch you enough to the point where, you're still able to make that commitment and keep it up, but you're not, biting off more that you can chew.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And, like it's, this behavior, so dry January has become like a pretty popular thing. And because everybody's like, okay, I think it makes everybody feel better about blowing it over, between Thanksgiving and New Year's. They're like, it's okay for me to just go binge and not worry about it because I'm going to do dry January. But if you zoom out to like big picture, if we zoom out over the course of a year, did those 30 days of not drinking alcohol really make that big of an impact if you were going all or nothing between, for 6 weeks between Thanksgiving and New Year's, and then you take 30 days off, and then, come January 31st, you're like, oh, it's time. And then you have this binge behavior again, and then you're right back to your normal routine.
Right.
It's like, it probably would have been better for you to just say, hey, instead of drinking 2 times a week, I'm just going to drink 1, and starting there, because that would be like much more manageable. And I think that one mistake from a mindset standpoint that everybody has around their fitness is they're just looking at it from too short of a time frame. They're not zooming out and looking at it for a year or 5 years or 10 years. And that's really what we preach is like the most successful clients are the ones that don't have goals.
Yeah.
They just show up regularly.
Right.
Like it's just, hey, working out 3 or 4 times a week is a part of my lifestyle.
Right.
Because that person is going to be working out 3 or 4 times a week on average for the next 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. And that person's not going like, okay, I got to lose 40 pounds, and then they lose the 40 pounds, and then they just like, they attain that goal and then they stop. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that if I could just get people to think about is this has to be, you just have to look at this as like a lifestyle,
Yes.
a long-term thing. And if you're focused on the short term, you will never have long-term results.
Right.
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 So let's talk about prioritization, because I think this is a big thing. If somebody's starting off and it's like, okay, Zach, well, I hear you. I don't want to be that statistic. So I won't just dive into the belly flop into the pool. Like, where do we turn this sink on? Like, where do we start?
Yeah.
And just start kind of trickling. And so for us, when somebody comes in, I'm like, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get you here for your workouts, and we're going to focus on that until it becomes so routine that you're not going to break that.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's very, very fragile. It's very fragile. And so step one is, hey, based off of your schedule, because everybody's got lives, everybody's busy. If, only people with free time worked out, nobody would work out. So don't think that you're special just because you have a busy schedule. But realistically, can you get here 3 times a week? Can you work out 3 times a week? Okay, great. Now let's work out 3 times a week without fail for the next 90 days. Can you do that? And can you miss a workout? Like, this is really important. Can you miss a workout and then be back to 3 times a week the following week? Can you go on vacation and miss a full week and then be back 3 times for the following week?
Yes.
If you can do that, then it's habit. Then it's become part of your lifestyle. Now we can add something in. If you can't do that, then there's no point in us adding something else. Because if then we're like, okay, we need you to, stop eating sugar, let's just say, what are the odds of you still being able to work out, even if you've been inconsistent there, and actually being able to cut out sugar? You won't be able to, right? So it's like, let's master the workout routine. That's foundational. That needs to be there no matter what. And from terms of longevity and morbidity and risk factors and all that, exercise probably is your most bang for your buck. It is the thing that you should prioritize first. And it also is probably the most powerful for creating momentum and trickling down into other elements of your life. Not always, but it probably has the best chance. Not eating sugar or decreasing how much you drink or counting your calories is not going to then trickle into you exercising. It just never works that way.
Right.
So it's like, hey, if we can get you here 3 times a week, we should at some point, then you're going to say, hey, I really want to get the most out of these workouts. I want to feel good during these workouts. I want to see results from these workouts. Now we've got the motivation to then start working on some dietary things.
And that success breeds motivation. So if someone is having success with their workouts and they've got that routine down, they've nailed it, they're coming in 3 times a week, and they're feeling really good about themselves, then at that point they're going to feel that motivation, and they've seen that they've had success with getting the workout done. Then they're ready to move on to that next step. And then, all right, I've nailed this, now let's nail the next thing. And then I would start small there too. Don't overhaul your whole diet at once. Start small.
Yeah. And I think the place to start there is with protein intake.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We're not trying to eliminate anything. We're trying to just add protein. Let's figure out how we can, because you also been working out. So your nutrient demands have increased. Your body needs that protein. You're going to feel better and more energized from that, which gives you more momentum, which means you're more likely to then start cutting something else out or adding something else in. Right. And I don't think that, I think the workout component is always step 1. But I think for different people, step 2 could be nutrition. It could be, hey, let's add protein in. Or maybe it's drink more water, but it doesn't necessarily have to be nutrition. It might be, hey, now let's make sure we're getting enough sleep. That could be the next one.
Yeah.
Or a simple one would be take some supplements.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's not really that difficult to do. If we can get you to like take some supplements and say you work out every morning at 7 a.m., it's like, okay, well, we can stack these habits. You work out at 7 a.m., you have a protein shake, you take your supplements, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Now it really wasn't that hard, and we tied those things together.
Right.
So there's a strategic way to go about this. But I don't think that it's not necessarily, we know from experience kind of the natural progression or sequence for people is like establish your workout routine, water, protein, then we kind of start tackling the fats and sugar. And the sleep is usually way off in the distance. People really struggle with that.
Yeah.
They don't tend to prioritize that. But that's the goal here. And with someone, when they're starting, I threw 3 months out there. It might be 6 months. It might be a year. It might be longer than that. It might take you a really long time to be so solidified in mastering the workouts and the routine and having that be built into your lifestyle before we would ever add anything else. And so it's really up to you of like, I wouldn't say any quicker than 90 days probably for somebody.
Yeah.
Unless they've already been working out. If you're already working out, that's already there. You know, if they're
Right,
coming in and seeing us,
right.
they're like, hey, I already work out 3 times a week. It's like, okay, well, we can fast track this a little bit. What most people do is they start their workout routine, and let's say even if they're consistent for like 90 days and all they've done is work out, then if they haven't made any dietary changes, they haven't done anything else, they're like, well, why am I not seeing results? Right? Like, why am I not losing weight? And it's because, well, we haven't fixed your diet yet.
Yeah.
So what most people do at that point is they're like, well, I need to fix my diet, and they stop working out and they start like, oh, I need help with they flip flop instead of adding to, they're like, well, that didn't work. Let me go over here and do this instead. And it's like, well, that is not going to work because all you're going to do is focus on your diet. Then you're going to lose muscle mass. Now you're not burning as many calories. Now it's like, all these things kind of have to build off of each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to think about exercising or working out, like not as like a trendy thing to do for a period of time. You know, really start to shift your mindset to where working out is something that you do from now until the rest of your life. Like it's something that you'll build into your routine so that it is that habit that stays for the rest of your life, not just, you know, I'm going to work out for whatever this goal is and then I'm going to stop because I achieved that goal. So really just shifting that mindset, and that takes time for your mindset to shift to where it does become part of so much of a habit that it's like if you don't get up and, you know, do your workout during the day, you feel off because you didn't do it. It's like your body needs that workout. And at that point, I feel like then you've transitioned into that mindset where it is habit now. It's part of your daily routine, something that you're used to doing. And then, you know, let's start adding those other things in. And then you can start really seeing sustainable change.
Yeah. I guess the counter here is you want to start slow, but you don't want to start too slow. That's the other kind of caveat to this is, yeah, it's important to make sure that your routine is manageable.
Yeah.
Starting off. But if you're someone that's like, hey, I'm going to start by walking 30 minutes 3 times a week. Well, that's fine, but we're going to need to have that. We're going to need to progress from there relatively quickly, right? So let's say you're completely stagnant. You just don't move at all. You haven't exercised at all. You got 80 pounds to lose. Sure, start off with 3 times a week of walking, but after about 30 days at most, those 3 times of walking are going to need to turn into like some 2 days of weight training and then a day of walking, or walking and weight training. And we're going to need to continue to progress, because if you're like, hey, all I'm going to do is walk here, eventually you're going to go, hey, I'm spinning my wheels.
Yeah.
You're going to get discouraged because you're going to see 0 results from that, or very, very little results. Walking's great, but it's going to be, maybe that's hard for you initially, but your body's going to get used to that really, really quick. And so you constantly need to be have progressive overload, and it needs to increase in difficulty for you to continue to see adaptation. So manageable, but also like strategic to some degree, right?
There's a fine balance
There's
there.
a fine
Definitely.
balance. So, and if you guys are, listening to this and you're not a member here, we're here to help, right? Like there's reasons why there's professionals like us that know, like, hey, help us, we'll map this journey out for you and we can guide you through it so that you're, on the right track and you're efficient. You're getting the most out of it and you stay on track. And that's, if people don't have a plan and a program and a routine, it makes it really, really hard.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard to go about it alone. So
We're here to support you, guide you.
exactly. All right, guys. Well, don't bite off more than you can chew. Remember, it's, might be a new year, but that doesn't mean that you're a whole new person and you have new habits and they're already established, or that you can just like 180 your lifestyle, right? Same year, or new year, same you. Man, I'm really struggling with that. New year, same you. So know thyself, and, get some help if you're like, hey, I want to make these changes. I know that it's important. I'm just not sure how to execute it on my own. That's what we're here for.
We got you.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
All right, guys, that's all we got for you. We'll be back next week with more great stuff. Thank you so much for listening to the Healthy Living Scottsdale podcast. Do you have a question that you'd like for us to answer live on the podcast? If so, all you need to do is head over to the Apple Podcast app on your iPhone and do 3 simple things. First, leave us a rating and review telling me what you think of the podcast. In that review, ask anything you want related to health, fitness, or nutrition. And if you want a shout out, leave us your Instagram handle or name. That's all you have to do. Then listen to hear your questions answered live on the next Q&A episode.